Welcome to NEXTGames NM Hunt Series, episode number 6. Now at this point in the series, I've covered all of the NMs that I had intended to cover from the Zilart and Chains of Promethea expansion areas. Now today, we'll be covering 4 final NMs of the Shikigami Weapon, Cemetery Cherry, Alkyoneus, and Sozu Rogberry. Now starting with the next episode in the series, I'll be moving on to taking on the 3 worms and the original kings of Endgame. If you feel I've skipped any NMs from the Zilart and COP areas and before, please be sure to list it down there in the comments, and I'll be sure to cover it in a future video. Now let's first start with the Shikigami Weapon, who you see me taking on here. Now the Shikigami Weapon is a level 77 to 80 EVA Weapon NM that spawns in Romav. Now he will spawn invisible roughly 21 hours after the last time he was killed. He also roams much of the map, so you want to use wide scan to locate his position and then use magic near him to make him go from invisible to appearing. Then you can attack him and take him on. Now the NN drops the Yin Yang robe 25% of the time, which used to be the best body piece for Summoner in early endgame. Now in regards to what to expect, you will note that the Shikigami has a fairly high rate of attack and hits fairly hard, so shadows are recommended on this one. It's also a red mage, so it's going to use red mage spells. Other than that though, this should be a fairly easy one to take on, especially if you have some trust to back you up as I do here. Next up, we have Cemetery Cherry, a Trent NM that spawns deep within King Rampir's tomb, at H8 on the second map. Now Cemetery Cherry has similar spawn conditions to that of King Arthro, in that 60 to 72 hours after the last time Cherry was killed, 8 cherry saplings will spawn at H8 on map 2. Now once the final one of those 8 saplings is defeated, Cemetery Cherry will spawn nearby a few seconds later. Now Cherry is a level 72 to 73 NM and does have some nasty attacks, such as Leaf Storm, which dispels all buffs and slows you, Entangle, which gives a potent poison with Hate Reset, and Pinecone Bomb that can hit you for over 600 damage. Now Cherry also possesses the ability to use Blood Weapon, Sleepga 2, and Drawin, and has 40,000 hit points. Now there really aren't any good drops on this NM, just a bunch of logs and a useless club, making it one of those NMs you kill just for the experience of it. Let's go ahead and see how the fight against Cemetery Cherry goes now that we've killed all of the saplings. Next we have Alkyoneus, a level 75 Gigas NM that resides at the top of Delkfut Tower. Now this NM only has 10,000 hit points, and used to be one of the NMs I'd often solo back in the day, so I decided to take this one on at level 80 with no trust, so the fight is a bit longer than usual, but it also gives a little more of that nostalgic feel. To spawn Alki, you simply need to kill Gigas on the top 2 floors of Upper Delkfut's Tower until you get a Moldy Buckler item to drop. You can then trade that item to the question marks at H8 on the top floor to spawn the NM. Now he can drop the Alkyoneus' bracelets about 5% of the time that used to sell for good gil on the auction house in the early days of the game. Now he will use standard Gigas attacks and use Mighty Strikes at some point during the fight. Enjoy the rest of this classic fight without trust. Now this brings us to the final NM of the episode, one that I spent more time farming than any other back in early days, and that is Sozu Rogberry. Now back then, Sozu was a lottery spawn NM, and I spent months down here killing it daily to eventually get my Thief's Knight to drop, as the drop rate was extremely low. Now these days, it's been made much easier and it's a pop item NM. To get the item to spawn Sozu, you need to kill Toneberry pursuers in the area until a flickering lantern drops. Note that the Toneberry trailers in the Den of Rancor also can drop this item. Now once you've gotten the pop item, you want to head to G8 on map 3 to trade it to the question marks within the small room to spawn Sozu. Now the main risk with Sozu is from that of throat stab, so I recommend using a tank trust to make the fight as easy as possible and to bounce hate back and forth. Now fortunately, today the knife has a 100% drop rate, so thieves can get that extra bit of treasure hunter much easier these days, though the dagger itself stops being useful once you reach eye level gear. That's going to be it for this episode. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy out there.